Thursday afternoon, you're watching The Pulse on the Joy News channel. Coming up this afternoon, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says he's proceeding to disburse taxpayers' money even before the 2024 budget is formally approved by Parliament. We'll tell you why he's making such a move this afternoon.
So that means the budget, in my view, has been passed. Later, there was a challenge which has not been resolved. So as far as I know and I believe, we have the 2024 budget passed.
It's more from the Finance Minister as a showdown is also expected in Parliament today, with the minority vowing to kick against what they describe as a budget that lacks substance. We'll get all of that for you as proceedings also begin on the 2024 budget and its approval. Meanwhile, Trade Minister Katie Hammond is expected to make yet another attempt at laying the controversial import restriction legislation, despite a growing opposition that the policy will breed corruption. Here on The Pulse, we assess the concerns of vehicle dealers here in Ghana as they also are this afternoon joining scores of trade groups and unions fighting the policy measure. We have the latest for you on that, and also in the next 24 hours, the National Farmers' Day will be celebrated. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, ahead of that exercise, is emphasizing the importance of data and technology-driven agriculture for the country's future.
We should not leave agricultural technology and the application of science and data only to the advanced countries.
Achieve that, and how do we promote innovation within the agricultural sector? There's more coming your way as the Vice President is also commending the 2022 Best Farmer for investing in the agribusiness area and also skills development for the youth. These are more coming your way here on The Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogan. It's a pleasure being with you here on the show, brought to you by Global Communities, Digni Lu, Affordable Safe Sanitation for All, DSTV Channel 421, GoTV Channel 125. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and at myjoyonline.com. Join us as independent, fearless, and credible. Welcome to The Pulse. We're back shortly. And thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. So much controversy this afternoon as Ghana's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says he's proceeding to disburse taxpayers' money even before the 2024 budget is approved by Parliament. The country's constitution reserves that exclusive right for Parliament to approve a Finance Minister's budget statement and economic policy before he proceeds with expenditure. However, yesterday's debate and approval of the 2024 budget statement turned chaotic, raising divided opinions. But the Finance Minister is arguing that the Speaker of Parliament has given him the green light. Well, he's been speaking to the press in Parliament yesterday, and of course, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kukwa Santi, who has been monitoring that exercise, is now giving us a recap of some of the major events leading to today's session, which will still be considering the 2024 budget.
This Honourable House approves the budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending 31st December 2024. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no.
No! Scenes in Parliament today reminiscent of what we saw in the House in 2021 when the NDC minority purported to have rejected the 2022 budget over the e-levy brouhaha and controversy in the House. Today again, the NDC MPs wanted to reject the budget and they did a lot of stuff to achieve that. There was an initial voice vote that the Speaker of Parliament adjudged to have been won by the A's, those who supported the budget, and the minority were on their feet. Listen to Ama Kofi-Buah challenge that decision of the Speaker.
On Order 1132 to call for a head count to challenge your ruling. And so,
but even before the Speaker of Parliament will go ahead and conduct that head count, the majority MPs will not agree. According to them, the NDC MPs have completely adopted a process that is alien to the House.
It's most unnecessary and should not be entertained. There is nothing before you. We can't proceed to do a head count when there is no primary application challenging the voice vote. Mr. Speaker, I therefore submit that that secondary step that he's urging on you to proceed on is neither here nor there, Mr. Speaker. It is as simple as an odious submission, and Mr. Speaker should dismiss him.
There was a back and forth over this for nearly an hour before the Speaker determined that he was going to go ahead with the head count. But the Speaker decided that not only was he going to do a head count, he was going to call individual MPs to stand up on their feet in their chairs to be counted. This is where the majority MPs drew the line. Oseche Mensah Bonsu led his team to walk out. But of course, not without some hesitations on the floor. There were still some NPP MPs who were seated who really believed that option to walk out was a bad choice.
You don't have the floor. If you want to entertain, you don't have the floor. For a head count, you don't have the floor. You don't have the floor. Head count on their side since they are challenging. You don't have the floor. You don't have the floor. The bill. You don't have the floor. You don't have the floor. And we are leaving the chamber for them. Yes, we are leaving the chamber for you. Now do the head count and see whether you have the number to overturn Mr. Speaker's ruling.
The expectation then was that the Speaker of Parliament will continue the vote by calling NDC MPs to stand up in their seats to be counted. The Speaker did otherwise, deciding that the House should take a suspension instead.
Is that there are 5 members of the minority who are not here. So all that he's doing is to play for time to enable them to come to the chamber. That is it. That's all that it is. What are the names of those of them who were not there?
Honorable Ayariga.
Ayariga is not here.
Honorable Zanato.
Sam George is not here. And Zanato is not here. Ajekum is not here. And Jachikwesin is not here. There are 5 of them who are not here. All that the Speaker is doing is playing for time to enable them to find a way to enter the chamber. What kind of thing is this? Why should a Speaker beat such a hasty retreat from what he had said? He said to us that he thought, and I'm quoting him, that I think the ayes have it. That is how speakers make pronouncements and determination. It is this. And that is why we left the chamber for him. That let him do his own thing. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the import of what you have done.
Well, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says, as far as he is concerned, the 2024 budget has been approved.
We are all here. We just, the bell is ringing, which means that the chamber is just coming back to sitting. But I think we've just witnessed a situation where the minority leader gave their closing statements, majority also did, and then I had some concluding remarks. Put it to vote twice, actually, and he declared that he thinks that the ayes have it. Yeah. So that means the budget, in my view, has been passed. Later, there was a challenge which has not been resolved. So as far as I know and I believe, we have the 2024 budget passed until such time as they resolve whatever they want to resolve.
The minority say that is not true and that the budget has not been decided on. And as far as they are concerned, another day will come on the floor where a vote will be taken on this budget.
Today, the MPP has been defeated. Yes. The MPP has been defeated in a grand style.
Comprehensively.
In fact, this is the second time this NPP has run away from their own budget. Second time in the history of Ghana. Sensing defeat. We have got them, and we'll get them again another day. The fact remains that the MPP does not have the numbers to approve their own budget. That when the Speaker makes a pronouncement and a ruling, they can only challenge that through a substantive motion. And on the 98 is clear on the matter. So as we speak, the budget has not been approved.
It's just about 3 weeks for Parliament to go on its December break. And what we've seen today is a foreshadowing of what is going to happen in the next 3 weeks. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of fights over a lot of things because of the level of mistrust that exists among the individual MPs. The majority say the Speaker of Parliament today acted in a way that abused the standing orders and wanted to favor the NDC minority over that. But that is not something that the minority agree with. We'll continue to monitor scenes in the House as this minority challenge of the budget continue to hang. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And in fact, Kweku Asante remains in the House for us. We can give you live pictures of what's happening in Parliament as we speak. The Speaker of Parliament now seating in the chamber, the minority leader there, making some initial remarks. As we know it, the business of the day, the order paper indicating clearly that the budget, the 2024 budget, will now have to be approved. We'll be crossing you over shortly just to get the arguments going on the floor of the House, but it's also a good time to tell you about who's joining, our conversation this afternoon, helping us with the majority position on this matter. Joining us is Mohammed Amin Adam, Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, also watching together live with us. I believe he's also joining the debates subsequently. But thank you so much, sir, for spending some time with us here on The Pulse. First of all, your initial reaction to what is happening in Parliament today, laid before the House and on the order paper, is the fact that the 2024 budget will now be considered by the House. You were right behind the Finance Minister yesterday when he made a pronouncement that, in his view, the 2024 budget has been approved. How do we reconcile that? And kindly unmute for us, sir, so we can get the point you're sharing with us. Doc, we seem to be having a challenge with your Zoom connection. If you could kindly unmute so we can hear the point you're sharing with us.
Okay. So I'm saying that I'm really surprised. The paper has listed approval of the budget. I'm really surprised because the budget was approved yesterday. It was approved yesterday. The Speaker ruled that he thought the ayes had it, and the ayes were those who were in favor of the approval of the budget. This ruling has not been overturned, and therefore, as far as we are concerned, the budget has been approved.
When you make the statement, you were then faced with your parliamentary procedures and standing orders as to what they say about a consideration of such a nature. Anytime, the Speaker's ruling is challenged, there's clearly going to be a division. That's what's applying here, isn't it?
But I'm sure you heard the Speaker himself saying that he did not give a ruling, that he gave an opinion. So if it is an opinion, what ruling was challenged by the minority? He gave an opinion and not a ruling. So what was challenged by the minority? Was it a ruling? And so this is why we are saying that the Speaker's ruling was not challenged. The minority called for a head count, but they had to challenge the Speaker's ruling first through proper application. Okay? And when that is settled, then they asked for a head count. That did not happen.
That has been sustained by the Speaker, and in fact the Speaker is making his pronouncements on that as we speak. We can listen briefly to him, and then let me get your response to what his ruling is about to be right now, as we're seeing live pictures now from Parliament. The Speaker making a pronouncement.
It's before the House. It's not hanging. Nobody has hung it on any tree or any pole. It's still before the House. It's not a matter that Speaker should be seen or heard debating in public, because it's still before the House, and the final decision will be taken most likely next week. We have, as noted by all of you, done a lot of work on the review of the standing orders. And that one too, we'll do all we can to place it before you next week. This issue about opinion, ruling, decision, and all those things have been resolved in the new standing orders that will come before you. And so it will stop all this. But the practice before I became Speaker, and even during the course of my speakership, is that when you are to take a voice vote, listening to the voices from both sides of the House, sometimes it's difficult to decide firmly that either the ayes have it or the noes have it. And so there is an opportunity granted in the standing orders for the Speaker to express an opinion. And usually it is said, I think the noes have it, or I think the ayes have it. The practice is that is give opportunity if somebody is doubtful of the thinking of the Speaker to raise a challenge. That is the practice throughout. And that was what happened yesterday. And the challenge was raised. And so the next process was for us to do a head count. We have gone through this a number of times. And so that was what happened yesterday. It is during the course of the head count that we encountered a challenge. And some members of the majority side walked out. Some members were still present. But there was a lot of meetings, and some were standing and talking. And therefore there was disorder. And by our rules, when there's a disorder, the only thing open to the Speaker is to suspend sitting. And that was what I did yesterday. Then after that, we resumed. And when we resumed, the House was still not in order. And so the best thing is to adjourn, which I did. So I followed meticulously the rules of the House. For members and observers to go out and misinform the public, and for them to run at Parliament and the Speaker, that one, I leave it to them and their gods. So, for me, I'll do what I believe is right to the best of my knowledge and ability. And so next week, we'll try and do everything. But we have a saying, and I'm sure you all know this saying. Oh, you don't want to hear my saying? Yes, Deputy Minority Leader, you don't want to hear Minority Whip.
When you finish.
We say that the mouth of the old man smells. But what comes out from that mouth doesn't smell. It's wisdom. This one is food for thought. So please, with all due reference to ABA Fuseni, Honorable. Oh, you are here. He is our professor. Yes. So please, may I hear you now?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you made this clarity yesterday, and the public has been misinformed that the budget was approved. So it's good you have stated that there was no decision, and you have directed that the business committee should reschedule the budget statement and economic policy for a decision to be taken next week. Mr. Speaker, for emphasis, I have been here 4 terms now. Mr. Speaker, you trained me. I had the opportunity to learn under you. And Mr. Speaker, our rules are not that ambiguous. And when you quoted Order 113 Rule 2 and stated that you put the question first, you were not clear, you put it the second time, you were saying that, said, I think the ayes have it. So, Speaker, the majority leader is a man of grammar. I think the ayes have it. This morning, my daughter, who had just completed Wesley Girls, told me, Daddy, I think the ayes have it means that you are not sure. She had just completed Wesley Girls. Yes, my daughter, she's in my office right now. And the Speaker, this is a statement of fact. Daddy, I think the ayes have it means that you are not sure. And the Speaker, it's for very good reasons that speakers upon speakers have been putting the question that way. I think the ayes have it. That's your opinion. Then you check. If nobody is on his feet, you go ahead. The ayes have it. That's declaration and that's ruling. The Speaker, even sometimes some speakers go ahead and put the gavel 1 to the ayes have it. The budget statement and economic policy is hereby approved. We didn't see that yesterday. Members, some senior members have been here 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. They were still confused. But how can you be confused by this? It has happened and happened and happened. There was no declaration of results. We were in the process. So even if you go to today's order paper, the table office has programmed the budget statement economic policy for 2024 for a decision to be taken today. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, it's motion number 10. Unfortunately, my colleagues on the other side are not here. They are playing a football game with no goalkeeper, no defenders, no wings, only 3 at a number 7, 8, 9, 8, 10. Mr. Speaker, for the second time, they've run away. I think, as members of the leadership, Mr. Speaker, we must take the rules of procedure serious. And Mr. Speaker, some lawyers are sometimes misled. The Parliament is a house of rules and procedure. It's technically different from court rules. When you go to court and there's ruling and you appeal the ruling, it means the first decision stands until the ruling appeal is heard. That is different from Parliament. Mr. Speaker, when you went ahead and quoted Order 98, that my opinion had been challenged in Order 113 Rule 2. If I had gone ahead to rule and you wanted to challenge my ruling, that way you would have come with Order 98, because the ruling of the chair is not subject to debate except upon by substantive motion. You stated all these things here, and that found it very difficult to believe that people were so confused. So, Mr. Speaker, what the table office has done is the right thing. Even some lawyers and members outside are finding problems in accepting what happened. But, Mr. Speaker, where we are, Ghana is not standing well. There are critical decisions that people are looking up to us. And if you look at the numbers here, we in NDC believe that the people of Ghana are looking up to Parliament to take a decision and to give direction upon where Ghana should go for addressing our economic issues. Mr. Speaker, we accept that we are in opposition. Look at the numbers here. Where are they? The people of Ghana has given you majority, and you have turned into minority in the chamber. Mr. Speaker, governance is not for joke. If you want to rule, you must be serious. People's destiny is in your hands. You can't take it for granted. And it's not a matter of technicalities. It's a matter of rules and procedure. And Mr. Speaker, this is the book of rules and procedure. Everything is clear here. So, Mr. Speaker, we came today to take a decision on the budget. Today too, they've run away. Mr. Speaker, looking at the numbers here, even though you have indicated that the business committee should settle it for a decision to be taken next week. Mr. Speaker, we have barely 3 or 4 weeks to go on recess. Mr. Speaker, I think once it has been programmed and the members are here, the leader of the house is here. Mr. Speaker, we have the numbers to go ahead. Mr. Speaker, we have the numbers to go ahead, and we are ready to help them. Mr. Speaker, time is not on our side. As I speak to you, Mr. Speaker, if you listen to the minority leader rendition yesterday, Ghana, we are in crisis. Mr. Speaker, we are in a street. And you can't be in a street and be joking. We must assist, Mr. Speaker, for us to address the issues. So, Mr. Speaker, clearly speaking, Mr. Speaker, as leadership of the House, we must account for our members to come and do business in the House. Mr. Speaker, we have time, we've been voted for, and we are voted for to come and do business on behalf of Ghanaians. And that is why we have come. Mr. Speaker, today is today, and the decision must be taken. You want the decision to be taken, the decision is on the other paper, and it must be taken today. We are ready for the decision today. And the decision must be taken now.
Honorable members, well, I will listen to the majority leader, but I hope and pray that your submission is not to debate the decision and directive of the Speaker. Yes.
The Speaker, is that advice to me? Is that advice to me? I just want to take a cue. Is that advice that you're proffering to me?
I was to the Deputy Minority Whip. What he said, I'm saying that I hope and pray that what he said is not to debate the directive of the Speaker on this matter. Well, as he himself quoted, I've stated clearly my position and given a directive. So that is not subject to debate. And that's what I just drew his attention to. But because
the Speaker is just an appeal. I don't qualify to challenge your decision at all.
Yes, and that is why I call on the majority leader, where you made statements definitely beyond the perimeter of this House into what we are constituted to do, the highest political platform for national debate. And so I'm allowing the majority leader to also have a word.
The Speaker, first of all, for the record, when we stepped out, we did not misinform the public. We related to the truth as happened in this house. We related to the truth as happened in this house. Mr. Speaker, so we have not misinformed the public. What we spoke to is captured right here in the votes and proceedings. That the question on whether or not the motion for the approval of the budget statement and economic policy should be done by this House was done, and the ayes had it. Mr. Speaker, that is what is here. And nobody here has challenged that the question was put, and in the period of the chair, the motion was agreed to. The Speaker, as I've said, subsequently, a head count was sought by the Deputy Minority Leader. The Speaker, it is that head count, that application, that is still not dispensed with. That head count has not been dispensed with. It should not be confused under any circumstances. Anybody who knows parliamentary practice, it should not be confused under any circumstances that the Speaker has not said that the ayes have it. Mr. Speaker, and then when you say that the ayes have it, and people are making issue about it, Mr. Speaker, the ayes have it is a term of art in any parliament. And it's a tragedy for people who don't even appreciate this. It's a tragedy on the part of people who don't even appreciate it. Mr. Speaker, now you refer to Order 98. Mr. Speaker, we raised preliminary issues. The Deputy Minority Leader who came and sought a head count came on the premise that he was challenging the ruling of the Speaker. The Speaker, that is what he said. And that is what engendered the plenary issue that I raised. That what he was doing was an abuse of the processes. Because the moment he said that he was challenging the ruling of the Speaker, then he ought to have come by a motion. Mr. Speaker, go to the records. Go to the records. Play the audio visual. That is what he said, that he was challenging the ruling of the Speaker. The Speaker, so that is why we raised those preliminary issues. I don't think that now we are correcting votes and proceedings, and I don't think that we should be going into this. And my colleagues are leading us on that path. And if you have to go on that path, the truth will be told here. Mr. Speaker, so that is what occasioned the plenary issues that were raised. I'm happy that you have said that you have given that directive. It is not to question it. What is captured as item 10 on the motion, on the order paper for today, states that this honourable House approved the budget statement and economic policy of for the year ending 31st December 2024. Head count to be taken. The issue of the voice vote has been dispensed with, you have pronounced on it, and it's been challenged. And a head count is being sought. That is what has been advertised here. It has nothing to do with the voice vote that we have declared. Mr. Speaker, if a ruling is given by a court and you appeal, to the extent that the appeal is not dispensed with, the ruling stands. That is what people should understand. That is what people should understand. If you don't understand, that is your problem. Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, I thought we were dealing with the votes and proceedings. So when colleagues rose and were sidetracking, I thought we were going to rein them in and bring them back. But that is what it is. And Mr. Speaker, I think we'll go by your directive that on the 5th or 6th, 7th, that we'll do what is required of this House to be done. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much.
Honorable members, let's move on. Let's move on. Every speaker depends a lot on the guidance of leadership. And because of the nature of this parliament, a hung parliament, I place a lot of premium on pre-sitting meetings. Pre-sitting meetings with leadership. Honorable members, this is what happens on a daily basis. Members come into this house, listen to what they want to hear. Even sometimes when it's not said, they still hear it. Members come to see what they want to see. Even when it doesn't exist, they see it. And so when they go out, they say what they want to hear and tell people what they've seen. This is what happens here. Before we always come in, every morning we have pre-sitting meetings in my lobby. And we go through the business of that day. How are we going to handle the business? Where we disagree, we go through how we'll iron out in detail the disagreement. We did that in respect of this item. And we all knew what was going to be played out. That is what we do. And that is what guides the speaker. And that is what I followed yesterday to the letter. We knew that there will be both sides with numbers. And therefore, it will be difficult for a speaker to tell, particularly when people yell, as to which side have the numbers more than the other. And so we all agree that I will use the same term that we all use, I think, whether the nose have it or the eyes have it. Then opportunity is created for somebody to challenge my thinking. We went through all this in the pre-sitting meeting, and therefore there will be a head count. We went through all that, and that was what played out yesterday. How can Speaker be blamed for going through what we agreed upon? Please, when you attack the Speaker, you are attacking Parliament. Because you are not attacking Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagby, because Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagby has made it. If not, I would have been seated here as Speaker. So the legacy is there. But we need to build this house. And I keep on telling you, this is a house of might and majesty. Might because of its influence. Its influence, what we do as a house, affects all Ghanaians. And it has effect globally. And so we need some respect, we need some dignity. That is why when you go to the court, there's a code of conduct there. You just don't behave anyhow in a court of law. If not, you undermine the power of the rule of law. And so please, let's accord this house the same respect. If you yourself don't do it, how will the people you represent do the same? They will follow your examples. Because it's leadership by example. So I was really surprised, and I didn't want to go this far. But because you are playing it out again on the floor, I'm compelled to let people know that all what happened here, all what I followed, we agreed before we came into the house. With this, we move on. Page 13. Honorable members, we are still at the votes and proceedings. Page 13, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful. Mr. Speaker, on page 13, even before I come to that, Mr. Speaker, I'm a little bit worried this afternoon. When I came, I didn't see my colleagues.
Honorable member,
I'll come to that.
Votes and proceedings.
Yes.
Start with that.
I'll come to that.
No. Start with that.
Mr. Speaker, on page 13, paragraph 3, you have some members of the majority group walked out of the chamber. I hope you give me time to bring my second concern. Now, I think that the reading should be majority members of the majority group.
Well, so what you see now on the screens are, in fact, live pictures that we're bringing you from Parliament, the debate on there. And it appears to be settled in terms of the divided opinion on whether or not the 2024 budget and economic policy statement of the Finance Minister has been approved. The Speaker now explaining what the status of that document is. It has not been approved, as the Finance Minister is suggesting, and decision, a final one, will be made next week, as that clear directive from the Speaker is. But this is beginning to, stoke the debate as to the kind of reforms Parliament will need going forward in terms of its standing orders and in terms of the grey areas where we need to iron out and try and get some education on what the process should be. And that's why I'm fortunate to be joined in studio now by a former Member of Parliament, also former member of the Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament, the Honourable Inusuf Hussaini, who's joining us in studio now. Thank you. And we're grateful that in spite of your busy schedule, you're here. This is, of course, a nostalgic feeling for you, knowing that you've been in the House when things get heated, and, of course, there's confusion about what your own standing orders say about votes and proceedings. But let me take your thought, first of all, on what we experienced yesterday. The majority giving their side of what they think the Speaker's directive is, and the minority also saying the budget has not been passed. Was that avoidable?
Well, that was clearly avoidable. But let me say good afternoon to you. Quite a long time.
Yeah, indeed.
Now, that was quite avoidable. And it was avoidable because everybody knew that the budget, which is the government policy and appropriation bill, had been presented to Parliament. The policy underpinning the appropriations was to be debated and passed. Now, we know that in passing that policy, you have to put it to a vote, and that normally is done by voice vote. Now, under Order 113, where a member of the House feels that the voice vote, the Speaker's opinion does not adequately reflect the voice vote, the member is enjoined under Article Order 1132 to challenge the ruling.
Was there really a challenge yesterday?
There was a challenge. Immediately, and somebody was raising a technical
yes.
which didn't exist.
The Speaker says, I think the ayes have it.
I think it's an opinion, and so you challenge the opinion of the Speaker. Now, and that's an inbuilt mechanism in parliamentary practice. That, look, the Speaker can get it wrong, and sometimes gets it wrong. And moreover, it's a check on a capricious Speaker. Normally, the Speaker of Parliament comes from the ruling party. Now, the numbers in the Parliament might not adequately reflect the strength of the various caucuses.
Right.
Now, where you have a Speaker coming from a ruling government, the Speaker can decide that his hearing is that the voice vote is in favor of the majority, when in fact the numbers...
It could be to the minority side.
So even when on play side, the members do not support that decision. Now, that is why the Speaker, when a voice vote is carried out, first says, I think the yeas have it. I think the yeas have it. Then he says, the years have it.
Right.
Yes, the years have it.
Then the gavel goes, and then we know it's now done. Right.
Now, why do you think the Speaker engages in that activity and emotions?
Right.
One, he says, I think the years have it, and stops. To give opportunity for any member of Parliament who thinks that the opinion is wrong.
To challenge that. But the question is that grounded in the standing orders, or it's not clearly stated?
It's clearly stated.
Right. Still within the 1332 you're referring to.
Yes. Immediately you invoke 1332, which is a challenge to the opinion of the Speaker in the voice vote. You don't need to say, I challenge the decision. Immediately you say, I invoke Order 1132. Order 1132 is challenge to the Speaker's opinion.
Right.
And so you don't need to say that that's a challenge. It's there in the order.
The finance minister says his opinion is that he's been given the green light by the Speaker of Parliament. Do you feel his statements were contemptuous of Parliament? And what's going to be the implication now, knowing that he has a different opinion about what transpired yesterday? What's the caution to him now, knowing that the Speaker is giving a directive?
First of all, he's not a member of Parliament, so you can excuse him. You can excuse his ignorance of parliamentary practice. Now, when the Speaker, when the process or the motions are gone through, the Speaker makes a definitive pronouncement. Mind you, that is an act of Parliament. So he says, the Speaker will say, after I think the years have it. I think the years have it. Yes, the years have it. The so-and-so budget has been read and passed.
That should have been the final statement.
Then the gavel goes.
Right.
Then it's sealed. Now, when that happens and you want to challenge the Speaker's decision, you must do it by a substantive motion. Okay? That is under Order 50 of the Standing Orders.
Right.
But until that is done, it's still the process. And you can rise to your feet to challenge the Speaker. Now, I think that the majority knew what they were doing. As a former member of Parliament, I think they knew what they were doing. They clearly did not have it.
You feel so? They are rather accusing the minority of not having the numbers.
No, they don't have the numbers.
Right.
You see, if they had stayed and a head count had been conducted and the budget had been rejected, that would have been a rejection.
Which would mean that they would have to start the process
again,
all over again.
So, if you are not sure, the best way is to walk out. Create that difficulty and repair it when you have the numbers. That was a smart move.
And the strategy worked for them.
Yeah, Parliament is not just debating, talking, and looking at the standing orders. It's also about strategy. And I think that was a strategy. They clearly did not have the numbers. And they knew they didn't have the numbers. Because why would anybody walk away from his own budget? When it happened in Le Mans' time, where the budget was rejected, that is the very reason that informs the presence of Article 78(1) in our Constitution, which now mandates the President to choose a majority of his ministers from Parliament. So the members of Parliament will have a duty, an abiding duty, because they are part of the executive, to support government's budget. Under the Third Republican Constitution, we had a strict separation of powers, and members of Parliament were not compelled, could not be ministers.
Right.
Okay, and so when President Liman introduced a budget and that budget was rejected by his own members of Parliament, there was nothing he could do. And there was no obligation on the part of members of Parliament to support the executive's budget. They saw that as the executive's budget. Now, the members of Parliament in this fourth Republican dispensation, some of them are also members of the executive. So why will members of Parliament walk away from their own?
That's an interesting question you're asking, and people are beginning to draw remote connections about disaffection, perhaps, for the finance minister, knowing that there are some even within their ranks who want him out of office still. That matter is not settled. So let's get to it, even before we talk about the reforms, possibly that should happen to, the standing orders in the House. Do you feel that and suspect that possibly that might be the challenge in fighting within the NPP, dissatisfaction on the part of some of the MPs who simply feel that the economy is not being properly managed by the finance minister?
Well, for that, it is not beyond debate, not so. 90 members of the majority members of Parliament voted to pass a vote of no confidence in the finance minister. And by extension, they pass a vote of no confidence in the decision of the president to continue to maintain the finance minister in office. Under a strict parliamentary system of government, the government would have collapsed. But fortunately, we are practicing a fusion, okay, of the parliamentary and presidential systems of government. And because the president derives his authority directly from the people, a vote of no confidence in the president does not work automatically to collapse the government. But that clearly was a vote of no confidence. And why did they pass a vote of no confidence in the finance minister? They had said that the policies being pursued by the finance minister is leading to hardships in their constituencies. And there was the fear and present danger that if the finance minister continued in office, they risk losing their seats. Because there will be so much disaffection in their constituencies that the voters will turn against them. And so to save their seats, they were saying the president must relieve the finance minister of that job. And so
you suspect that's possibly what's happening?
It's one such thing. And secondly, the budget itself, from the probably what we'll say a bias, but the budget itself is an IMF-driven budget. And so it has to fall in tandem with the IMF prescriptions that we are currently going through. So that makes the budget very empty because it's an austere budget. You are not going to get resources to spend, okay? You are going to impose taxes, okay? And so because of that, the harshness might increase. So people, and you saw that on the floor of Parliament. At many or various times during the debate, you didn't see a lot of the majority members of Parliament. I mean, they were out there minding their own business. Yeah. They sought to explain that away by saying that a list had been presented to the speaker of those who were going to speak.
Debate and all that.
Yes. And so part of the problems confronting the current budget is a deepened lack of confidence in the prescriptions contained in the budget.
Your side, and formerly you were on that side, I mean the minority, they're being accused of course, pretending not to know the situation in which we find ourselves as a nation. And this is an austere budget, as you're pointing to, and yet they're still holding government to ransom. Was that not a needless, perhaps, debate yesterday? Just pass the budget because you know times are not too well for us, indeed.
We members of the minority have a responsibility to account to their people. I mean, democracy is all about accountability. And you and I and Ghanaians must engage in honest conversation. You say governance is about trust. And so when you are given the opportunity and mandate to rule, you must take the mandate seriously. You must take the office seriously. Now, if your activities lead to a collapse of the economy, you must take responsibility. Leadership is about taking responsibility. Now, insofar as government continues to hide under other exogenous circumstances or factors to explain away the difficulties in which we are, you will find that manifest in Parliament because the minority will come to state and forcefully that it's not any exogenous factors that are causing the problems, but the old style of government, the recklessness, mismanagement that has led us to where we are. And so this is why the conversation is not ending, because government has not engaged in an honest account of what has led us to where we are today.
And that's not because we have a fault.
Wendy's Peppermint Frosty and Frosty Cream Cold Brew make the perfect gift for anyone in your life. Especially for you. Yeah, this year you're sitting on your own lap and getting yourself what you want. Finally. And now every day this season, unlock 20% off your total when you get any small, medium, or large Frosty in the Wendy's app. So order something from your own wish list this year.
Limited time only. Participating U.S. Wendy's with app offer and registration. Applies to menu items only. Taxes and fees excluded.
The minority, as we should put it.
No, the minority's role in Parliament is to ensure that what government will not tell the people, the minority will do so. So the government will not tell the people that, well, inflation went to 54.1% because we had to engage the central bank to print currency. That your purchasing power diminished because more money was in the system because of our gold for oil tin, and so it affected your purchasing power. That, look, the central bank made a loss, and this loss was because of A, B, C, D that they were doing. And so that, yes, even the gold for oil, this is what we are doing, print money and go and buy gold for the purposes of engaging in barter. Yes, that the Auditor General's report is not a fine report, because it appears that just about 1/3 or so of the resources earmarked to fight COVID was used to fight COVID. Right. That the government has taken all the resources that were in our stabilization fund and the gift for the purposes of shoring up the management of the economy and all those things. And that has left us vulnerable. So you see, clearly, the minority will say those things. The majority will never say those things.
Anyway, let's look at the way forward, because the Speaker of Parliament is just signaling to us that there might be some reforms in the standing orders. You're quite vexed in this area, and possibly the reason for which that might be is because of what happened yesterday, confusion over what a Speaker's opinion should be and what the ruling is. If there are reforms that must be indeed considered, where do you feel that the House should be starting from?
Well, so there have been reforms. Just like people are clamoring for the constitutional amendments, the standing orders has the same age with the Constitution.
Oh, it's as old as the Constitution.
Yes,
okay, right.
And so people are thinking they haven't worked the standing orders for 30 years, just like the Constitution. There are things.
Do you support that? That indeed
I think that I was a member of the Standing Orders Committee. We had worked on the new standing orders. We had worked completely, right. And then with many new innovative provisions to address some of these problems. Now, why we couldn't pass same in 2020 was that, one, Article 11 of the Constitution makes that a subsidiary legislation. And so what do we do? Do we lay it before Parliament for 21 days? At the time that we were considering the standing orders, we didn't have 21 sitting days in Parliament. Do we pass it by resolution? If you pass the standing orders by resolution of Parliament, you can amend it by resolution of Parliament. And you want the amendment of the standing orders to be that difficult, such that, there can be certainty and predictability that this is what we will do in these circumstances.
It's confirmed.
It's confirmed.
Right.
And so that was why we did not pass the standing orders in the last Parliament. Now, and you know that a previous Parliament cannot bind a succeeding Parliament. And so they have to go through the process. And the Constitution says that where a bill is before Parliament and the life of Parliament ends, the bill lapses. Yeah. And so that work that we did, non-lapses. You have to take it up again and work on it.
So since you're, of course, having that foreknowledge of what this document contains, what are some of the key changes you did then? And if that's what the Speaker is now going by to work with, what are some of the likely changes we might see, as part of the standing orders?
Now, many things have happened since. Right. One, the standing order says that a presiding speaker, deputy speaker cannot vote. The Supreme Court now says that a presiding deputy speaker can vote.
Yes.
That did not agitate our minds. We had thought that we should maintain that status quo because of the sanctity of the office of speaker. Now, a new standing orders will have to make provision for that a deputy speaker can vote. Now, we also, brought into being in the new standing orders a day we will call the backbenchers day, where you allow backbenchers. Most of the times, experienced legislators take the floor and
they take the shine. Don't be diplomatic about it. You take the shine. So you are the only one speaking. Those behind, they are famous, but they never come to Parliament
for 3-4 terms. They will not be able to. People do not hear of him.
Yeah.
So create a situation where the backbenchers will be forced to speak. They have a day, and then they do everything. They'll be in charge of Parliament, debating and all those things, so that you can bring them up. That when a question is filed, when can it be answered?
That's a very crucial one, because sometimes the ministers are very dismissive about it. You invite them, they tell you they're on a travel or something else.
Yeah, so you file a question, they will provide timelines. When the question is filed and received by the Speaker, is transmitted to the office of the clerk between, you have a time limit within which you should move from the speaker's office to the clerk's office, and the clerk to send it to the minister. The minister has a number of days to respond. When the minister responds, it has a number of days to get onto the order paper, and the minister must come and respond.
I see.
Yes.
Impressive work you've done there.
Yes, we did a lot of work, yeah.
Let's round off by looking at the way forward in building consensus. This will be the final lap, and I mean from January next year will be the final lap of this very parliament that we're looking at. It's been a very highly divisive house, knowing that it's a hung parliament, right? So possibly that's why we're having such tension always on the rise anytime matters come up on the floor of the house. But what do we do going forward in terms of picking up lessons and improving much more on our parliamentary democracy? Are there some lessons that we're picking up from this kind of a parliament? And what should we be looking at?
There are many lessons. First of all, for all of us who are electors, we know that dividing parliament between the majority and the minority does not always play out well. I mean, I have said on your platform that in coalition governments or in governments where there is no clear-cut majority, those governments are weak, because where a junior coalition member decides not to subscribe to a policy or support a policy of government, then the coalition collapses. So naturally, where you have such a parliament, it becomes weak. Secondly, where in our presidential system of government, where you have equality in numbers of parliament, that can lead to many things, including trading.
Yeah.
I mean, people can negotiate their positions.
Yes.
Because government wants its policy to go. Some people will put obstacles
opposing it, yes.
Government will have to come and engage them. So that can lead to all manner of things. So for all of us electors, we must understand that it's always good to put the balance of power on one side. In parliament.
Yeah.
Now, that's two things. You are able to hold government accountable. So, okay, you had all the opportunity. The people of Ghana gave you overwhelming majority in parliament. You could bring in any policy. And so, having been given such number of MPs, when your policy fails, you have to admit responsibility.
I see.
But this time the government can say, well,
we don't care where they executive, and then they just bulldoze their way through. Alaji Yunus Hussaini, you're not just a former member of parliament, you're a known member of the NDC, and some pollings are already out. People giving their analytics of what might happen in the next election. I'm sure you saw the rankings by Global Info Analytics for the Zongo and inner city communities, where the projection is that John Dramani Mahama, your candidate, appears to be gaining some, much more following as compared to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We have Alan following through, and then the rest is spread for the other candidates making their intentions to run the 2024 election. Is that a good omen for you, or you say this is predictable?
Well, it is good omen. I mean, it's good omen because Bawumia had gone to the electorates, particularly the MPP, and campaigned on three grounds. One, that he's a Muslim, and so if he's elected flag bearer, he can bring the Muslim community on board.
Yes.
Two, that
Zongo
communities fear. I mean, they all like him, and so and the Zongo communities are the 17th region.
Region, right?
Yes, 17th region of Ghana, and so in electoral distance.
Yes.
So 17th in electoral politics, you have to treat them as a separate distance. So constituency. So he said he could bring the Zongos along. And thirdly, that NDC as a party fears Bawumia, precisely because of the Zongo communities and the northern factor.
Right.
So a pool like that of Info Analytics, which suggests that John Mahama will do well in the Zongo communities, is a vote of confidence in John Mahama. I told you earlier that elections is about trust.
You feel Bawumia hasn't delivered on the promises to the Zongo communities?
The fact that Bawumia's disappointment of Ghanaians, his performance as a vice president, manifested in a lot of disappointment, is not legendary. I mean,
even to the Zongo communities, because let's look at the track record. The Zongo ministry was created, subsequently a special funding dedicated to inner cities and Zongo communities. Now for the northern communities, it's in the form of the special development initiative. These are three key flagship programs that the government has run targeted at these communities.
So let's talk about Baumia.
Okay.
They promised that all Zungu communities will have model schools.
They didn't get that?
Well, do you know of one?
I'm asking you. I should be asking you.
So this is somebody who went and stood on a platform and said that to Zungu communities. Why? He thought that there was some inequality, between people living outside Zungus and people living in Zungus, and to bridge the inequality gap, you needed that infrastructure to ensure that you provided better educational facilities to the Zungus. So they applauded him. The Zungu communities do not have toilets. You remember? Baumia promised that they would build toilets.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, he said within the first 6 months of their government, no community will lack water or toilet facilities or those things. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. The biggest slump in Accra or in Ghana is the Agbogbloshie. He went there and promised a lot of amenities to improve upon. You can add them to the Zungu community because they come from, and that's about the Zungu and nothing. So Baumia actually is facing a deficit trust. And I'm not surprised that Info Analytics is suggesting that John Dramani Mahama will do well in the Zungu.
If you take one big policy, which has got to do with free senior high school, for instance, the argument is the impact cannot even be estimated because it goes everywhere, even the inner cities, the Zungu communities. In fact, I recall one of the gender ministries saying now you don't have the Kai and people serving in homes of very the elite communities simply because of that very life-saving policy of free senior high school. Don't you feel that, for instance, a free senior high school policy could compensate if indeed the president or the vice president has been deficient in catering for the Zungu and inner city communities?
I don't think the policy was targeted at removing Kayages or people in those areas into schools and making sure that they serve the more privileged in society. No, I don't think that was the intent of the policy. The intent of the policy was to grant access
to everyone.
To everyone. Okay.
But it includes the inner city and Zungu communities.
So that's
right?
why we have always.
Is that not making up for the deficiency as you're pointing out?
You are looking at non-discriminatory provisions.
Right.
But in the introduction of policy, they've entrenched discrimination.
Right.
What is happening really is that you and I, who have our children attending public secondary schools, are being subsidized. Okay? When we should be paying more for our lesser fortunate brothers and sisters.
Right.
But our children have to enjoy the same facilities with a less privileged society. And that is not social justice. Okay? And that's why we are saying that. And the Minister of Finance alluded to that. Mustafa Hamid, the CEO of National NPA alluded to that. That look, people should understand that if you are trying to create an even ground, you must look at the inequalities and balance them out.
I see.
You can't treat people who are differently circumstanced, equally.
Okay, Alhaji, before we go, what's the alternative of the NDC towards the inner cities and the Zongo communities? At least the president and the vice president have brought that constituency, as you're describing them, the 17th constituency up, and they will be topical in the 2024 elections. What's the NDC solution to the challenges, the killer challenges these communities face?
I don't know whether you read the 2020 manifesto, and I'm sure it will be captured in the 2024 manifesto. We had come out with an urban renewal policy. That look, we're not growing mega cities. Accra population will expand and might contain people equal to, the population of many regions before or at the time of independence.
Right.
So the pressure on infrastructure will increase. Now those who lack infrastructure, like the lower, the peripheral communities, will be heavily impacted upon. So for us, how do you renew those communities? Infrastructure. Infrastructure will improve upon the decency of their lives. Now, infrastructure includes housing. Good housing. Good water. I don't think that you go to Agbogbloshie, you will want to buy water there and drink because you are afraid that the water might be contaminated. Right. So the people there need infrastructure in terms of provision of good water facilities. That there was an attempt by Kufuor to move some of them and settle them because of the congestion over there. So NDC has a policy towards urban renewal, and it is captured in the 2020 manifesto. It will be captured in the 2024 manifesto.
And I'm grateful that you've spent some time with us, Alhaji Yunus Hussaini. It's been a long time, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing you more often as we continue the discourse into the 2024 election. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, and you're still with us here on the Pulse on the Joy News channel. When we get back, the Trade Minister is still in Parliament making yet another attempt to pass the controversial legislative instrument which will possibly restrict import. We'll tell you about that when we get back. Please stay.
It's incredible! Bang on target!
Oh, banana. We should try it, especially my banana.
Your superstation Love 99.5 FM, in partnership with the brilliant minds behind your favorite court series, KDTL vs. Makola, comes to your latest comedy master, Banana and Melon movie. Meet Henry, a man on a do-or-die mission to win the heart of his lover, Afi. But Afi seems to have other plans.
By the way, are you an Ewe?
Yes, Afi Chipwe.
Oh, Afi, you're lucky.
I'm lucky.
Yes, I'm looking for an Ewe. You're an Ewe.
Starring the incredibly talented Louise Lamis, the fantastic Atidadzi, and the lovely Isabella Etona, comedian Kweku 40, and many more. Don't miss the grand premiere in Kumasi on December 2nd at the CCB Auditorium, KNUST, and there are 2 show times, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Tickets are available for just 60 Ghana cedis single and 100 Ghana cedis couple. Tickets are available at front desk of Love FM, Poku Trading Supermarket, Adum, IC Cup, KNUST commercial area. Sponsors.
Your day is never dull when you tune into Joy Prime. Wake up to Prime Morning on weekdays as Roselyn, KMJ, and Asiedua kickstart your day with breakfast of issues.
Genta explains Sarkodie came promise at the Grammy absence.
Stay informed with our news updates, sports coverage, all interlaced with captivating novella series. Sandwiching the thrilling telenovelas is our comprehensive news at 7. Unwind with Sports Zone, Mondays at 9 p.m. BMPS Show, Friday at 9 p.m. and groove to the turn-up general selections at 10 p.m. on weekdays. The weekend is packed with loads of excitement from kids programs to captivating talk shows. Stay tuned for action-packed movies from Monday to Sunday and many other exciting shows only on Joy Prime. Joy Prime, your ultimate experience.
In partnership with Joy FM, Roverman Productions presents For Girls, The Spell. An original Ebo White play.
Before we go, sister, there is something the Lord has put upon my heart for you. I think the Lord is leading me to you.
Oh, you know, you are like the clouds to me.
Really?
Yes, brother. When you disappear, it's always a beautiful day for me. If the Lord could lead you, why didn't he lead you to a shop where they sell deodorant?
Ah, sister, pray about it. I am sure the Lord will.
You know what? Right now, I need something only you can give
What
me.
is that, sister?
Your departure.
Venue, Burma Hall at Burma Camp. Dates, December 2nd, 3rd, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Time, first show on Friday at 7 p.m. 2 shows on Saturday at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. 3 shows on Sunday at 1 p.m., 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Rates, 150 Ghana cedis. For tickets, dial *365 *535 hash. WhatsApp 050-554-6010 or visit all usual outlets. Sponsors, Gino and GCB Bank.
And thanks for staying with us here on the Pulse on the Joy News channel. Let's stay on Parliament because the Trade Minister, K.T. Hammond, is making yet another attempt to pass his controversial legislative instrument, which will now restrict the importation of some 22 items. Minority in Parliament on 3 separate occasions blocked that bill or legislative piece from passing. And of course, K.T. Hammond, the minister, has been arguing that the passage of the bill is good, but the minority says it could breed corruption. Well, here's what K.T. Hammond had to tell Joy News about this imports restriction legislation and what government is seeking to achieve out of it.
We are not, to the extent that we don't create famine in the country.
How do you propose to do that?
Well, exactly. So you see the committee that has been put together, Agriculture Ministry, Ministry, how many of them? You got a copy of
the ministry, you have the Ministry of Agriculture, you have the Finance Ministry, you have the GRA, you have
the food and whatever, what called FDA.
Yes,
they are all there. Go to the page. They are all
including the associations like
so
AGI.
All of them. And so there is this committee that meets and monitors food production in the country. So it's not a simple question of just sitting down one afternoon and determine that you can get a certificate or permit or not. No, the ministry is responsible, particularly Agric. There has been quite a lot of liaison between our ministry and Agric ministry before we came out with this. We thought through. If in the end, the committee through the Agric ministry tells us that there's a deficit, the deficit between production and consumption in the country is this much, so this much has to be imported, it will be allowed through. It's as simple as that.
So what you're saying is you would allow imports, yes, so far as it doesn't create shortage locally?
Absolutely. And of course, so far as also doesn't flood the system. So to the extent that there will be starvation in the country, we would ensure that the right quantity is allowed into the country. What we would not do, and repeatedly I'm making this point, is to simply get up and arbitrarily suggest that, well, we restricted the import of this, we have restricted. You might well say that the word restriction is a misnomer, and you might be right in saying that, because it doesn't seem to me that right from the word go, we're going to restrict to the extent that you may be tempted to equate a restriction to banning, but that won't be entirely accurate. We will be restricting, not in the context of banning, but restricting in the context of keeping an eye on it and making sure that at the same time the production at home is beginning to match our consumption. At a point when there is equilibrium somewhere, then the system will be looking at whether there's a need to continue with the importation.
Well, the Vehicle and Asset Dealers Association and Union of Ghana say the import restriction will only create monopoly with a potential risk of breeding unemployment. Joining us via Zoom now is Frank Tanley Kufiga, Executive Secretary for the Vehicle and Asset Dealers Union, joining the conversation now. And of course, many of us are expecting that the Trade Minister will attempt yet again today to lay that legislative piece. There's no indication so far that has shown up, because we're just watching the live images from Parliament where, of course, only the leadership appear to be present. Is that good news to you, knowing that at least the Trade Minister has not gone ahead to lay this before the House today again? And Kofi, we seem to be having some challenge hearing you. If you could just unmute and then we see if that's clear. Yes, loud and clear now. So the point about whether it's good news to you or not.
Clearly, we've been watching keenly. For now, we think that until we get conclusions on this or finality on this, we are watching. We are yet to see whether K.T. Hammond, Honourable, can be able to lay this LI before Parliament, and if it will allow it to pass.
In fact, you are hoping to make yet another, plea and intervention today, even before he heads to Parliament, and you issued a statement pointing out in that statement that this import restriction bill might lead to some sort of monopoly, and which you're pointing out very clearly, breeding possibly corruption. And then there's also the issue about unemployment. How bad is this policy likely to affect your operations?
This policy in its entirety to our business is very bad. If you can indulge me, I'll give you a bit of a background from where we started. Listening to the Honorable Minister, respectively, he made the point that the restrictions are not to ban, the importation of these items. But if Ghanaians will know, in 2020, or remember, in 2020, the government introduced the ban on importation of used vehicles. We protested. We spoke with government, and by the grace of God, they were able to suspend it. Some portions of it were suspended. Now, they moved from the Customs Amendment Act 2020 to try to use standards board, to create the standardization of these vehicles and sort of paint the picture that the vehicles that we bring into the country are not worthy or are not roadworthy, or because of the damages, they are risk to pedestrians and the roads. That also fell flat. Now, if the Honorable Minister is telling us now, as vehicle and asset dealers or dealers in automobiles, that this is only a restriction, but somewhat not a means to ban the importation of used vehicles, we don't see where that lies.
And I've put this question before all of these 6 unions and those of you within the automobile industry raising concerns about this airline. There's going to be a committee that will be set up, the regulation, all these airlines. You're clearly represented there, so you could make a case, isn't it?
Where are we represented? Where in this are we represented?
You're not? Not at all?
We are not represented. How are we represented? Prior to this, we were not called. There was no, according to them, in their stakeholder engagement, we were represented. How are Vehicle and Asset Dealers Union represented there? We are the mother union. So where is Vehicle and Asset Dealers Union? How are we represented? We were not spoken to before this. We were not engaged before this. So how come we'll be engaged after this? We want to understand the rationale behind these restrictions. If we had sat around the table to have a conversation around it, we would have known that, the restriction would take a particular shape. And if you're going to get certification or you're going to get the, the license to be able to import, it will fall within a particular category. So we can spell out who the real car dealers or importers in this country are and who is required or who qualifies to get this particular license. But if we don't have this or we've never engaged in this, how then can we say that we've been part of the process from the beginning, or we are sure of being part of the process after the LI has been passed?
I see. I'm just reading your statement again, and of course it's occurring to me now that you're not entirely happy, and it's not just about the import restriction, but a number of activities going on in the automobile industry. And you say that this includes tariff issues and concerns that you have. It's as though you're just picking up your old battle with the trade ministry, isn't it?
Yes, we've engaged the trade ministry over the years, and most of our engagement came out nothing. We didn't get anything out of it. We had quite about, if I'm right, about 6 engagements with the Ministry of Trade in respect to automobiles, and then the Custom Amendment Act, and then the automotive policy and its fallout. We've tried engaging them, but nothing has come out of it. So we put all this together because to us, we think that it is still another plan to sort of restrict or sort of ban the importation of used vehicles into this country to sort of give the entire market to the assemblers. The question is, do they have the capacity to supply the markets of the 100,000 vehicles we need yearly? Do they have the capacity? They do not have the capacity. But in one aspect of the Custom Amendment Act, it states that in their inability to assemble the required number of vehicles to meet the market, they have the authority from the ministry to import fully assembled vehicles into the country. So what are we doing? We are already importing full vehicles or completed vehicles or not breakdown or semi-breakdown vehicles into the country. So why do you give the entire...
But I guess this is where the opportunity lies, isn't it? The fact that there's even a shortfall, as you're pointing to, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry explains that it's not an outright ban on importation. Perhaps your members might be allowed to bring in some vehicles, except that you might not do that as you used to. So there's still opportunity, isn't it?
You see, respectfully, we've said this time with our number that we are not against the LI for some commodities. But to us, this is the opportunity for government to completely shut our business down. We don't think we'll be treated fairly. That is why we have stated the issue of corruption or corruption-related activities after this LI is passed, because we know very well that even as we speak now, some agencies are not happy about the importation of used vehicles because they think now we are a threat to the manufacturers. They think we are a threat to the sales of the manufacturers. They think we being in the market will mean that their business will not grow, and that is going to sort of dumping investor confidence, and then going forward it will give the country a negative mark when it comes to investing into the country. So we don't see this going in the long run to help us in any way. Chocolates of queuing at the Ministry of Trade to get licenses to import into this country. We don't think it's going to help.
Okay, so let's
fully against it.
Yeah. So let's look at the way forward now, and what you're likely to do as a union. At least the minister has not laid that, so you have some few more days to make an intervention. Tomorrow being a holiday, you have Monday also there. What's your next line of intervention? At least, what do you intend to do, knowing that the Speaker has now given the green light to the Minister to act?
You know, after the Minister was unsuccessful with laying the bill, we've tried everything possible to try and reach out to the Ministry so that we can have a conversation around this. That has not come out successful. Okay, so we are still putting our calls through. We are still reaching out to people at the ministry, the directors, the assistant, and all that. But still, we've not been able to get in touch with anybody so far to be able to send our grievances across. So if the minister is not able to lay it today, I think it's another opportunity for us to still go back and engage them or find ways and means to try and engage them so that we can see if there will be some definitions as to where we stand, and then what the licensing regime that they're putting in place will be, who it will affect, and then the benefits we can get out of it.
Let's wrap up on the issue about cost, because that's what many of us are concerned about, what this would mean to the average consumer, the average person who wants to buy a vehicle from your group. Is that signifying an increase? Perhaps government says they're dealing with this ally simply because it would give more power to the Ghana cedi against the US dollar. Now we're restricting, you say there might be a shortfall. So a shortfall will mean definitely that prices may go up.
Clearly, a shortfall will mean that various dealers will hold, and then they'll increase prices of these vehicles. Because as it stands now, dealers are not selling. As it stands now, people are reluctant to sell because they don't know their position after a week or two. They don't know after if the bill is laid, it will pass or it will not pass. So they are creating, an intentional sale shortfall so that we will sort of decide as to how we will release the vehicles into the market or hold it completely. Okay, as it stands right now, we are still indecisive as to what to do in respect to the goods we have at the port. We are indecisive as to what we are going to do with the goods we have in our garage. We are still meeting, we are still deliberating amongst ourselves as a union, and then we'll come out with the final position on this. But our consumers should know that clearly the prices of vehicles or motor vehicles, the ones that fall within the category, will go up dramatically.
Anyway, it's such a bad time for those who want to buy new vehicles, perhaps for Christmas. But I'm grateful. Frank? Yes, Frank, you just want to land on that point briefly?
Yes, it affects all the stakeholders within the value chain, because if we are no longer importing vehicles honestly speaking, the automobile mechanic has no business. The Abosokai spare parts guys do not have any business, because I don't see the reason to go to Abosokai to go and buy any spare parts to fix any vehicle. Or auto mechanics, you have electricians, you have key programmers, we have sprayers, we have panel beaters or body works guys, and then all these guys. So the question is that, has the ministry thought of the fallout, the implication, the repercussion, the rippling effect of this particular restriction on other sectors or other dependents on automobile market? Have they thought of it clearly? And have they prepared well? And if they have prepared, what plan do they have for us?
I see.
There are over 7,000 automobile dealers and over 15,000 dependents on our market. What is going to happen to them?
Very interesting questions. And so once more, your appeal to government is?
Our appeal to government is to look through, to think through this. If possible, they should reverse it, or they shouldn't lay it at all. They should come, let's have a conversation, let's define it. And once it fits the situation, the economic situation we have now in the country, clearly we will back it. But for now, no, Ghana is not ready. Ghana is not prepared for such restrictions. It is bad.
Anyway, it's such a pleasure speaking to you, Frank, and we wait to see what the decision of the Trade and Industry Ministry will be on this matter. But as it stands now, the Speaker of Parliament has given the green light to the Minister. We'll wait what the outcome of that will be. And we have our men still in Parliament monitoring today's proceedings for us. I will bring you up to speed on that. But let's veer into agriculture now, because Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is reiterating advocacy for a data and technology-driven agricultural sector. He opines that the days where, of course, hoes and cutlasses were used for farming and over, and technology has evolved. The Vice President, who was speaking at the grand opening ceremony of the Cerebral Institute of Agribusiness and Skills Development, an initiative by the 2022 Best Farmer, Nana Yaw Sarpong Cerebral, encouraged farmers to leverage on the emerging technology of artificial intelligence to enhance smart agriculture in conformity with industrial revolution.
Agriculture has become about science and data. But we should not leave agricultural technology and the application of science and data only to the advanced countries. In fact, application of science and data and technology is more important for the poor countries, for the developing countries. So let us not have the mindset that the science of data, when you talk about smart agriculture or precision agriculture or predictive agriculture, that should not be left for the advanced economies. We should be doing it here in the developing countries. And it is not something we should shy away from, because it is possible for us to do it here. So when we talk about big data, the use of drones in agriculture, the use of artificial intelligence, satellite data, to allow us to look at weather and how it affects farming, to look at soil suitability, to look at water availability. All of that is very, very pertinent to today's agriculture. If we apply this science and data and technology to our agriculture and focus on commercial, that is large-scale, mechanized and technology-driven agriculture, you will see that the productivity of the agri sector will increase manifold. And that is where Ghana ought to be going. And that is where we are going to drive agriculture. And therefore, I really want to thank our national best farmer, Nana Yaw Sarpong Cerebral the first, for this initiative, because it is very clear that he is thinking about imparting skills and technology to farmers. That is where it's going, and so he's ahead of the curve. And so we are looking.
Wendy's Peppermint Frosty and Frosty Cream Cold Brew make the perfect gift for anyone in your life. Especially for you. Yeah, this year you're sitting on your own lap and getting yourself what you want. Finally. And now every day this season, unlock 20% off your total when you get any small, medium, or large Frosty in the Wendy's app. So order something from your own wish list this year.
Limited time only. Participating U.S. Wendy's with app offer and registration. Applies to menu items only. Taxes and fees excluded.
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
At here in this center, having a hall dedicated to digitalization in the agricultural sector. Thank you so much. This is very forward thinking. This is where Ghana ought to be going. And I can assure you that you will get support to drive this agenda.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia there. And now to the Joy Clean Ghana campaign. We understand that it's yielding positive behavioral changes, as 8 out of 10 persons within the Accra metropolis have now changed their approach to sanitation in their communities. This was contained in a survey conducted by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly into the impact of the Joy Clean Ghana campaign over a 2-year period. There's more in the following report.
The Joy Clean Ghana campaign began with the goal to name and shame environmental health and sanitation offenders on camera to serve as deterrent whilst promoting good hygiene practices of environmental health and sanitation within the Accra metropolis.
The Accra Metropolitan Assembly has quickened its steps to introduce star rating systems to improve sanitary conditions. Just like hotels receive stars, the AMA has commenced the assessment of public toilet facilities with a star rating system.
That was one of the episodes where the AMA was on inspection tour of some public toilet facilities. After 4 years of airing the Joy Clean Ghana campaign, the AMA has conducted a research into its impact on the audience. The survey was done in 3 sub-metros called clusters of the AMA.
250 respondents were selected from each of the 3 sub-metros for the study. Also, 30 respondents each from the 10 regions, making 300, were also interviewed, making a total of 1,050 respondents. The regions include Ashanti, Northern, Upper West, Central, Volta, Bono Ahafo, Western, Upper East, and Eastern region.
One may ask, how many of the respondents followed the Clean Ghana campaign?
The study found that 615 people followed the Joy Clean Ghana campaign on a regular basis, with 247 following when they were around. Another 109 persons said they followed it twice a week, and 79 persons said they followed it once in a while.
The study found that 83% of the respondents have had a change in behavior after the exercises.
83% of the respondents said they had had a change in behavior after following the Joy Clean Ghana exercises. 8% said there had not been any change, and 9% of the respondents could not tell. Going deeper into the findings, 50% of the respondents said they are very careful about food safety now. 24% said they've stopped buying food from outside. 18% also said they have started doing the right things, with 8% of the respondents saying they have stopped selling in dirty environments.
The report concludes that a Joy Clean Ghana campaign brought life into the environmental health awareness in Ghana.
We are doing this, like I keep saying, as a continuous improvement measure. They will not be worried. It will rather put the operator and the cleaners on their toes, and it also gives some comfort to the user. So it's a win-win situation.
This report serves as a background for the Joy Clean Ghana campaign to expand into other areas in the country. The next phase of the exercise will see us coming to a place closer to you. For Joy News, Samuel Kojo Brace, Accra.
And indeed, we are independent, fearless, and credible. That's what we stand for. This has been the Pulse on the Joy News channel. There's more coming your way, including Let's Talk Showbiz. It's coming up right after this. Thanks for your company. I'm Blessed Sugan. We can, of course, get you more stories. If you do want them, just log on to myjoyonline.com. Lots of updates there for you. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.